Hello guys, and welcome back to another video, and today we are talking about my BMW E90 3 Series. Now we're going to be finding out everything that is wrong with the thing. So let's get outside and let's get cracking. Okay then, so here is the E90 BMW 320d M Sport, and like I mentioned in the previous video, the bodywork is in pretty good condition on this thing. I mean, if you was being really critical, you could say there is the odd scratch. Whether or not these scratches will buff out, I really don't know, because they don't feel that deep actually. So these types of scratches may come out, but there's a few of them on the rear end of the car. So again, nothing major, but if we are being critical, that is to be noted. I can't really see too much damage on any of the other panels, apart from maybe the bonnet, the hood, whatever you want to call it. There is quite a few stone chips, and you're probably wondering, why is the bonnet, why is the hood even up? And that is because the battery is on charge. I did just check the voltage on the battery, and it was showing like 10-11 volts, which obviously isn't enough to start up the engine. So yep, just put that on a trickle charge. So I'm going to leave that to charge for a good few hours. And yeah, chances are we may need a new battery. If it's good enough to get us started, then yeah, all is good, but we may or may not need to replace that at some point down the line. Now then, the wheels. I mean, like I said before, I'm a huge fan of these wheels, and they do have some curb rash on them. They are not perfect, but I may not even be keeping them on this car. Like I said, I might be swapping them on to my BMW 130i just over there, and then sticking those wheels on this. Still undecided with that yet, but one thing I know will need some attention, and that is the brakes. Now the discs, I know they do look quite awful, but most of this is just surface rust, and there is actually quite a bit of a lip on the discs, so those will probably need replacing, to be honest. The pads, they have a lot of life left in them, but if you are going to swap out the disc, you may as well swap out the pads. The calipers, they look very, very rusty. Again, most of that is probably surface rust, so they will more than likely clean up quite well. But that is generally the case on the front and the rear. And that is kind of to be expected when the car has been sitting for the best part of 2 months. With regards to the interior then, the real only things that I can pick out is this driver's chair has pretty bad wear, and I don't know why someone has covered this with some Velcro, but yeah, I'll more than likely just peel that off and reveal the real damage to the seat, which yeah, we have to kind of get rid of this glue now that this Velcro is left behind. But yeah, you can see this is worn quite bad, so whether or not we try and tidy it up, you know, kind of do a DIY repair, or if we, you know, decide to replace the whole seat entirely, I don't know, but it's nothing too major. It's what you would expect really of a car that is 13 years old. A couple of other areas that could potentially need some work is the steering wheel. That is very, very worn. It's probably one of the worst steering wheels that I have seen. Yeah, and you know, it's covered 155,000 miles, I believe, so yeah, it is, I guess, kind of to be expected. But the wheel, the rim itself, that's quite worn, and also this trim piece, which is very, very common, that's quite worn, and then also the gear knob as well. It's just kind of to be expected because it is a high contact area. Now then, what is wrong in the engine bay? Now, aside from it needing a very good clean, this has probably never ever been cleaned before. It's absolutely filthy in here. But aside from that, the only real thing that I know is wrong at the moment is we are losing coolant from the expansion tank. Now supposedly we have head gasket failure. That is what the previous owner said. Obviously I haven't really gone into depth yet. All I know is that he said after 15 minutes or so, coolant was, you know, coming out of here. Now I later, you know, when I bought the car, I did actually try to bleed the coolant. You know, got it running, the car runs absolutely fine. tried to bleed some coolant, and this bleeder screw here, that just completely snapped. So, you know, could this be our issue? And also, if we take a look in the expansion tank itself, we can see that we don't even have the dipstick or the level indicator. So how do we even know that this has the correct level of coolant? And it could be too high, it could be too low, I have no idea. So I think that this whole coolant expansion tank is completely scrapped. Like I said, that's broke. The dipstick is broke, which you cannot replace. You need to replace the entire expansion tank. So I think this, first and foremost, needs replacing. Oh, also as well, we have the incorrect coolant in there. We have the red or pink kind, which BMW takes the blue kind of coolant. So yeah, the entire cooling system does need a complete flush. But like I said, apart from that, I really don't know what else is going to be bad in the engine bay. I know the EGR is still in place, so we're going to have the associated issues with the EGR system. So more than likely the intake manifold is going to be completely full of soot. Actually, let's remove the engine cover and see if we have a leaking intake manifold. Which, yeah, we definitely do. Guys, if you can see all that soot around the front of the intake manifold here, it's very, very common. The seal between the swivel flap actuator and the intake manifold itself, once that seal goes, it cannot be replaced. You just need to replace the intake manifold or do a swivel flap delete, which, guys, you probably know my take on removing the swivel flaps. I think you just lose the drivability of the car, so more than likely this intake manifold will need replacing. But if we are going to replace the intake manifold, I'll more than likely remove the EGR system as well. Let's have a look at the injectors. It does kind of seem a bit wet around the top of the injectors, so that could potentially mean that we have some injector seals leaking, but it doesn't look too bad on top of the rocker cover. And to be fair, we don't actually know if that is diesel on top of the rocker cover or if it is just spilt oil. As you can see, it's all wet around the oil filler cap, so potentially that could just be oil that's ran into there. We don't know yet. That's going to need further investigating. I know the DPF is still in place as well, so because this car has covered 150 odd thousand miles, there's a chance that that is more than likely going to be pretty blocked. So again, that is going to need some investigating. Now, obviously, because we haven't taken the car for a proper drive, I don't really know if things like the suspension and bushes, little things like that, if they are going to need some attention. I believe on the previous MOT there was an advisory for the rear shock absorbers, which, having a look under the car, yeah, we can't really see a whole lot, can we? I guess we're going to have to drag this up to have a proper look. But the rear subframe, although it does have some surface rust, doesn't look too bad. I know these do suffer quite badly from rust because they are steel, of course, but yeah, it doesn't look too bad. It looks, you know, it still looks pretty solid, so I'm not too concerned with that. Now then, because we are not going to know a whole lot else before investigating further, you know, taking it for a drive and really getting to know this car, I think the next best thing to do is give it a scan. So let's get ISTA loaded up on the laptop and then see what the modules are telling us. Okay then, so we have the laptop connected up, we have ISTA loaded up. Let's just run a diagnostic check and then let's see what fault codes we have appear. Okay then, so it looks like we have a total of 11 faults. Now let's find out what the hell they are. Okay then, this is interesting. Looks like we kind of have a pretty even split between existent and non-existent. But let's go through them then. So, of course, the first one is the AUC sensor. This affects all E81, 82, 87, 88, E90, E91, E92, E93. You can pretty much guarantee if this has not been replaced, it has failed. So, yeah, that is to be expected. Second fault is to do with the seat occupancy sensor. Again, a very common problem on these. Next two are interesting though. Dpf faults. Well, I guess three faults for the DPF actually. Two for the particulate filter system, and then another one for the exhaust back pressure sensor. But that one is non-existent apparently. But yeah, all three of those are related to the DPF. So that could definitely be a blocked DPF on its way out. Fault emergency speaker, fault Bluetooth button, starter motor. Again, that could just be low voltage. Power supply has been switched off. Yeah, I'm not too concerned with that. Headlight vertical aim control defective. Yeah, not too concerned with that. Rear compartment stratification flap motor. No idea what that is, to be honest. I think that is the boot. Yeah, that's it. That's all of the faults. So, in actual reality, we are not looking too bad. I mean, of course, we do have some quite concerning ones with the DPF faults, but, you know, on a whole, after just jumping in the car and giving it a scan, not looking too bad with them, to be honest. I expected a hell of a lot worse. Okay then guys, so there we go. I think we will leave this one here. Like I said, in terms of the bodywork, the interior, that side of things, the car is pretty sound. It's only going to need minimal work. But in terms of the engine, I mean, we really don't know. Previous owner says head gasket failure. I'm thinking there's a couple of things that it could be instead. I guess we really need to start at that expansion tank. We need to completely swap that out, drain the coolant, put it up to the proper level, and then go from there. That will more than likely be the next video. But yeah, there's also going to be, you know, the odd small thing as well to do on the car, and obviously we're going to have to do the majority of the N47 common problems. I mean, it is at that mileage, 155,000 miles I think it's on, where a lot of the stuff will have already been done. I'm pretty sure it's had a new crankshaft pulley, new drive bout kit, new water pump as well. So we shouldn't have to spend a hell of a lot, but yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. We need to find out, the biggest thing we need to find out is, does it actually have head gasket failure? So yeah, but yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Hopefully you are excited with regards to what is on the way, and yeah, please give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace.